Hey everyone, and welcome back to another severe storm film or weather forecast. In this forecast, we have a very active weather pattern to talk about, including the return of severe weather. So let's get right into it without further ado. Taking a look at the trends over the course of the next 7 to 10 days, starting as we head into your Friday, February 13th tomorrow. Notice we have a high pressure system sitting across the eastern United States that's keeping things high and dry over here. But what that's also doing is that's bringing in moisture. And as that moisture is brought in, there's going to be a low pressure system that continues to move east. That could ignite some rain and snow showers across areas like Arizona, parts of New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah, in addition to the potential of maybe a stronger thunderstorm or two that could produce some gusty winds and small hail in western Texas late tomorrow afternoon. I think, though, as we headed towards Saturday, this is going to be the day to really watch out for everything, all right? As we head especially in towards Saturday evening, there's going to be a rapid increase in forcing aloft, and that could force a line of thunderstorms to develop in eastern Texas, basically Dallas-Fort Worth on eastward, and this can have some real high winds within it and maybe even the potential of a couple spin-up tornadoes and maybe a stronger tornado. I'll explain those more, those ingredients here for that in just a second. But then as we headed towards Sunday, that line will continue to move east with occasional gusty to damaging wind gusts. Other than that, it's going to be a soaker across the entirety of the mid-Atlantic back down into the southeast. So if you have plans over there, just be ready for a wet one. As we head into the daytime hours on Monday, that low pressure system will move offshore. There is some question remaining as to if this low pressure system will still be strong enough to have tendencies of moving northeast. If it does, there could be some impactful snow in the northeast. But if it does go out to sea like this and weekends before, it goes up this way, there's not going to be much of a wintry side, if at all right? So there is a potential for something in this area. It's just uncertain at this point. So just monitor if you live over there. And then looking out west toward California on Monday, this is what we're dealing with, all right? We're dealing with heavy mountain snow. This is probably going to be coming down at heavy rates, 1 to 2 plus inches per hour, and we're likely going to be dealing with a washout across California, maybe with some embedded thunderstorms in Southern California. Any of those could get strong to even severe. And then as we head in towards Tuesday, look at this. European 12Z coming off with a 988 millibar low, ejecting over the northern Rockies. This would promote high wind risks for this entire area. From really the southern plains back into Canada, this would probably be your localized corridor of strong gusts winds, all right? But it will be gusty throughout the entire plain-wide areas. In addition to that, there could be some snow showers in the mountains, and like I said before, there could still be some rainfall ongoing in California. As we take it into the daytime hours on Wednesday, though, a storm system begins to develop across the Great Lakes area as more moisture begins to get fed into the warm front. All right, this is going to be dragging that warm front across the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley at this point. The cold front is very visible, all right? The cold front's like this. So you have a huge warm sector. We don't usually see low pressure systems this far to the north in the month of February. Therefore, as we headed towards Thursday, it wouldn't shock me if we saw a few thunderstorms across the Great Lakes and Midwest areas, and any of these could be pretty strong too. So we're going to need to monitor those areas. And then as we take it in towards Friday, notice as that system moves up towards the northeast, may need to monitor for some snow, maybe blizzard-like conditions according to this model. Too early to say for sure, but definitely keep an eye on that. And then there's a potential for another storm system to develop, and then severe weather could become a possibility, or at least the potential of showers and thunderstorms naturally in your normal areas before another system gets going as we head in towards next weekend, bringing severe weather back further to the north. All right, now let's take a look at the ingredients needed for thunderstorms, all right? As we head into the daytime hours tomorrow for your Friday, February 13th, again, as that moisture gets loaded into Texas, that's where your focal zone for thunderstorms are going to be. And like I said before, we could have a few stronger storms. And then as we take this into the daytime hours on Saturday, notice how the instability really starts to crank up to about 500 to 1,000 joules per kilogram. It's weak instability, but it's definitely enough to do the job across this area. So monitor if you live there. And then as we head into the daytime hours on Sunday, that instability will begin to move east along eastward moving cold front. This should promote the risk for at least strong thunderstorms across Georgia and Florida. And then as we head into Monday, as I mentioned before, watching Southern California closely. All right, this doesn't look to be a slam dunk threat of severe weather, but I would watch out for maybe damaging winds with that line along that cold front. And then as we head into the daytime hours on Tuesday, instability will begin spreading into the mountains. And then as we head in towards Wednesday, this is when we got to start watching areas like the plains back into maybe the Midwest, all right? It's going to be a challenge to see how fast this thing moves, but I mean, either way, you got to keep an eye out, because as we head in towards Thursday, this model suggesting the thunderstorm focus will be in this area, all right? This is not your normal February setup, so I would definitely watch out if you live across the Great Lakes. And then as we head into Friday, down here across the south, there could definitely be some more thunderstorms. And then uncertainty remains, but then another system will form as we head towards next weekend, bringing instability back into the forecast. The question is, how far north does this lift as we head in towards that time frame? And obviously, you can't just have instability for severe weather. You got to have other dynamics in the atmosphere as well. And that is wind energy, all right? As we take this into the daytime hours tomorrow, notice how the instability builds as we headed towards tomorrow evening. Wind shear will be on the increase across this area, so I definitely think some of the storms that form could definitely turn strong, even severe at times, across West Texas. As we head in towards Saturday, this is when things will really start to ramp up in terms of severe weather, all right? Especially as we headed towards Saturday evening, where we're going to have lots and lots of wind shear across this area right here. I think this is where your greatest tornado risk is, in addition to your greatest wind risk, all right? So your potential 70-plus mile per hour wind risk area. Then as we head in towards Sunday, watching the potential for maybe not only one, but two pieces of storm energy, all right? Meaning that we could have two squall lines, or they could be semi-discrete. So we're going to need to monitor this closely. And then as we head in towards Monday, all this will move off towards the south. Those will probably just be general thunderstorms in Florida with that instability. But then rewinding it into Monday, again, like I said before, watching Southern California very closely, all right? Any thunderstorm that manages to get organized across this area will have potential to produce damaging winds, maybe even a spin-up tornado. So again, monitor if you live over there. Going into Tuesday, this trough will begin to move over the Rockies. This will begin to pull in lots of moisture from the Pacific as well as the Gulf, all right? Not directly, but it's beginning, and that will set up Wednesday for us, all right? Watching any storms that form in this area, but then as we head in towards Thursday, I think this is the more direct day for the potential of severe weather, all right? We showed you the instability. I think this area has a decent shot at seeing some pretty strong thunderstorms if this is the exact case, all right? This will be shifting around, and I know this is not your average February thunderstorm area to watch, but I definitely would be concerned to see damaging winds and maybe a couple of tornadoes if this setup were to verify across that area. And as we headed towards Friday, here comes the next storm system, all right? High pressure over here, bringing in the moisture to the Gulf, to the southern plains, and this actually might have deeper moisture than this one did. So, therefore, as we head in towards Saturday, might have a bit more of a significant severe weather risk across this area, all right? Again, the northern extent of the warm front remains uncertain. However, anywhere within this warm sector where the cold front bisects the warm front, you guys would definitely need to watch out for that severe risk as we head towards that time frame. And taking a look now at a closer look where to expect some stronger thunderstorms as we head into the daytime hours tomorrow for your Friday. Again, like I said before, look at the moisture increase across Texas, all right? And this is the Rufus or the RRFS model. This is around 4 p.m. Central tomorrow evening, showing some pretty decent thunderstorms firing off in this area. All right, this model does tend to overdo things, so I'm definitely not expecting it to look exactly like this, but you guys could definitely get some good hail producers, maybe damaging wind producers if storms allow. And then as we head into the early morning hours of Saturday, all the storm activity that forms will begin to congeal into a messy squall line. And then as we head in towards Saturday afternoon, all indication says that we might have some sort of bowing segment down here blowing across the Houston area, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The location of these bowing segments could shift, but overall, watch out for this severe line because this is definitely going to pack a punch. Then moving into early Sunday morning, this shows this line moving off towards the east with the continued threat of at least scattered damaging winds, maybe spin up tornadoes at times before this thing begins to quiet down as we head in towards Sunday. And then I mentioned before, maybe a secondary squall line as we headed towards Sunday afternoon, which could start up a whole other severe weather risk. And finally, taking a look here at the snow and rain totals. All right, starting with the snow totals here. Notice how there's a hot spot over the course of the next 7 days in this entire area here. All right, I'm talking the western United States back into parts of the Great Lakes. We're going to have to wait and see how far those warm fronts lift. If they can tap into that cold air, there could definitely be some winter storm criteria totals along this. But areas like in the Ohio Valley, back into the southeast and stuff like that, back into the Southern California region, these areas, just forget about the snow. All right, you guys are not going to be seeing it. You guys are going to be seeing instead the potential of all those warm-ups. Like I said before, the potential of severe weather across this entire area over the course of the next week plus. All right, so the pattern is definitely shifting north in terms of snow tracks. And if you take a look here at your rain totals, all right, you can see how those are really maximized in those blanked out areas that didn't have snow, all right? Look at this, loading it up as we head in towards, from now into next weekend, this is some significant rainfall. All right, anywhere from the Great Lakes back into the southeast. This could be coming from thunderstorms. All right, even up here. All right, those could be coming from those thunderstorms on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, whatever day that storm system decides to hit. In addition, I think you guys could have some flooding issues over here across the Intermountain West with those thunderstorms, especially down here in the Southern California region. Again, damaging winds possible as we headed towards Monday. But then you go up here, that's where you'll really start to get into the potential of some very heavy rainfall and some training showers and thunderstorms as well. All right, folks, that's all I have for you on this forecast. I will see you guys again whenever I have another video. It shouldn't be too long, probably within the next 5 days or so. So have a good rest of your night. Stay safe out there, everybody.